The desperation is just reeking from Marvel Comics. They put themselves in a terrible position. We're seeing many things kind of colliding at this moment. Marvel Entertainment, which contained Marvel Comics, is no more. Marvel Comics is being pushed into Disney. There's a little desperation there. We've also got the dwindling sales that have been happening specifically with the X-Men. We've been talking about it here for a few years. After the amazing story that was House of X Powers of 10, they never actually were able to capitalize on it. So you have dwindling sales, and then normally an X-Men event would prop sales up at least for 2 or 3 months, but that's not working out anymore either. So they've been scaling up the events and made them more rapidly. We're getting about 3 X-Men events in a calendar year, and actually that's not helping either. We've heard that from several sources behind the scenes. Perch talked about it quite a bit on his channel. So what Marvel Comics are going to do now, and we saw this with Summer of Symbiotes, an event is no longer an overarching defined story. Now an event, at least at Marvel Comics, is just generally related ideas or themes or characters. Fall of X appears to be not a linear story whatsoever. It's just everything that was X-Men related and some stuff that's not even X-Men related being tied into it, so they can call it all Fall of X, because now just having 6 titles related to an event happening over a 3 or 4 month period to give you, 20 to maybe 30 new comic books to put that trade dress on, that's not enough anymore. Now they have to call every single thing in the world that could tangentially be associated with it the event itself. It's absolutely disgusting. And I imagine CB Cebulski, the EIC of Marvel Comics, is sitting in his office going, how did we get here? While he's eating a dumpling or whatever. You kind of put yourself here. I'm an outsider, and I could see the problems and all the obstacles that Marvel were creating for themselves by incorporating so many bad creators into the X-Men line and making it too big initially, by also ramping up their event titles. And basically all those chickens have come home to roost at the worst possible time in the history of Marvel Comics, when Disney is basically cutting money left and right, looking for $5.5 billion worth of savings. And I'm telling you, Marvel Comics, it might not be a huge amount of savings, but you're not losing a lot of revenue either. So they have got to feel like there's a target right on their asses. This is what we know about Fall of X. Marvel revealed a new promotional image at MegaCon Orlando. The image includes a list of series encompassed by Fall of X, some of which have either previously been announced or started their respective runs: X-Men, Wolverine, Invincible Iron Man, Uncanny Avengers, X-Men Red, X-Force, and Immortal X-Men. So the X-Men line plus another Avengers title in an Iron Man book, while other titles such as Astonishing Iceman, Children of the Vault, Dark X-Men, Realm of X, Alpha Flight, and Uncanny Spider-Man appear to be new series launching soon. Creative teams and further details have not yet been announced. You see what I mean? Everything in the world that could just barely be related to an X-Men title is now being called part of this Fall of X event. And obviously the thing that's supposed to get the headlines is Uncanny Spider-Man. As whatever, man. Do we not have enough Spider-Man titles? If they keep doing this, Spider-Man will become the next Batman, where half of all Marvel Comics will just be Spider-Man related for some reason. Iron Man is now an X-Men book. Uncanny Avengers is supposed to be an X-Men book. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Astonishing Iceman. Like, who the hell even asked for that title? There's no way that's going to generate any sales. Children of the Vault would have been great 3 years ago when Jonathan Hickman was still associated with X-Men. He's the only one that knew what to do with that title. And I like Alpha Flight. Alpha Flight's cool stuff. When X-Men's hot as a tertiary title to the main events themselves, when you just can't get enough. But it's quite obvious by the sales, people have gotten more than enough of their X-Men fill, and that's why they're not buying the comic books anymore. This is just a terrible idea. But there's more information because they did give us some details on this. The devastating events of the Hellfire Gala and tragic circumstances of Fall of X calls for the return of the Avengers Unity Squad in a new run of Uncanny Avengers written by Jerry Duggan. This new team must solve the mystery of who the new murderous Captain Krakoa is and stop his army of killers from igniting the fires of a new world war. They just did a panel talking about the 60th anniversary of the Avengers, and Uncanny Avengers is part of that plan. That's a title that they claim is created to celebrate 60 years of Avengers, but now it's all of a sudden associated with an X-Men event that's not really an event. It's just a moment in time where they're going to slap trade dresses on it. And then the overlying mystery is Who's the new murderous Captain Krakoa? CB Cebulski needs to look in the mirror and ask himself, why haven't you fired Jordan White? Why is Jerry Duggan now one of the main event writers at Marvel Comics? That is how far you've fallen. And who is the murderous Captain Krakoa? It's supposed to be something that entices people to buy a comic book. Give me a fucking break. Duggan will continue to write X-Men throughout Fall of X. Following the Hellfire Gala, the title will see a cast shakeup with new additions such as the winner of this year's X-Men vote and Kitty Pryde. She's been known as Kitty, Sprite, Ariel, Red Queen, and Captain Kate. Now, as the X-Men find their way through their darkest hour, Shadowcat emerges. This is the third new name that they've given Kitty Pryde since the Krakoan era started. I like Kitty Pryde. She's a really cool character. You know who I don't like? I don't like Kate Pryde. I don't like Red Queen. I don't like Captain Kate and all the other stupid stuff that they slapped on top of this character and just ruined her. It's the fucking T.D. Howard effect, where they don't think of these characters as living, breathing things in a fictional world. These are just LARPing characters or D&D characters where you get to slap new stuff on them all the time. Their story doesn't need to keep going on. We need to spice it up because they themselves are like bored with what they've done with the character. This obviously is not going to work. And why is Jerry Duggan still writing X-Men? Just having him on any type of A-tier title tells you where Marvel Comics are. No good creators are actually willing to work for them right now. Certainly nobody that's actually going to move the needle at this point. It's absolutely embarrassing on the part of Jordan White and CB Cebulski that X-Men are in this state. Marvel has also revealed a new cover for X-Force 43 from writer Benjamin Percy. The cover reveals Colossus has become the new leader of the titular team after he and Laura Kinney are welcomed into its ranks in April 19th, X-Force number 39. Okay, so you're replacing the actual Wolverine that moves units and is certainly well associated with the X-Force team with Laura. Good job. X-23 is your replacement Wolverine, and now Colossus is the leader of the team. I like Colossus. That's not a reason for me not to buy the title. The reason for me not to buy the title is because it basically just sat there for like 24 months and didn't really go anywhere. It introduced all these ideas with zero payoff, which is kind of something that Ben Percy is becoming very notorious at this point. He is a mystery box storyteller in the vein of a J.J. Abrams. You put a mystery box out there. Eventually, 3 years later, you pay it off. But in the meantime, you've introduced 5 more mystery boxes. The characters just continue on aimlessly about not really solving anything. It just became, you know, a boring title after being one of the 2 or 3 best X-Men titles after Jonathan Hickman's House of X Powers of 10. It was a good, solid series, and it's just been really bad. You know, that's why they had to put a new artist on it that was a lot cheaper than Joshua Cassara, so they could put him over on the Wolverine book because there's more sales associated with that. Wolverine will also kick into high gear as the dire circumstances of Fall of X send Logan on the run into a collision course with Ghost Rider. A demonic serial killer is murdering innocent mutants, but what is it about the new deadly villain that forces our 2 heroes to team up? And what buried secrets does he share with Wolverine and Ghost Rider's never before seen very first meeting in the past? That absolutely sounds great. I like a great Wolverine Ghost Rider team up, and to be quite frank, Ben Percy's work on Ghost Rider right now is among the best in all of Marvel Comics. That's one of the series that you can actually read, and you know you're going to get a pretty decent story in it. So I'm not opposed to that, but does that sound like it's tying into Fall of X? Because of Fall of X, now Wolverine and Ghost Rider have to team up to stop a serial killer? Is the serial killer going to destroy all of Krakoa? Because that's what Fall of X is supposed to be about. You can see none of this stuff is really even tied into Fall of X, or at least whatever the original idea was. It's just whatever we can claim just on the outskirts might be associated with the events in there. And that way we can make the event 2 or 3 times bigger than it should be, because they've absolutely destroyed the sales on X-Men and a lot of other titles as well. I mean, look at what happened with Axe Judgment Day, an X-Men Avengers crossover book. Did not move the needle. No one gave a fuck. And by the end, everybody had noped out because the story absolutely sucked. And of course, Kieran Gillen did what Kieran Gillen does. He wrapped everything up and nothing changed by the end. And you felt like a gigantic idiot for even considering buying into the premise of Axe Judgment Day. And I guarantee you by the end of Fall of X, you will feel like an idiot once again, because there's no way they're going to end the Krakoan era. This is going to have 0 stakes by the end. And when they're done with it, it will all be back to the exact same way that it was before the event even started, because that's what Marvel does now. They are so unimaginative. They are so creatively bankrupt. No longer the House of Ideas, the House of Boredom. Fans also got a peek at Tony Stark's new stealth armor on the cover of Jerry Duggan's Invincible Iron Man #9, with Fei Long in control of Stark Unlimited and using its resources to build Stark Sentinels. Tony Stark has proposed a new alliance with Emma Frost. Tony will play a key role during Fall of X. The reason this is happening is because they can't sell anything. They have to bundle everything up and hope and just pray that just having every single character, Spider-Man, Captain America, Tony Stark, all associated with the exact same event will actually drive in interest into the event. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing at this point. Jerry Duggan is just a hack, you know. When he did Savage Avengers or Savage Sword of Conan, that really feels like it's way more in his wheelhouse. I don't think he's a superhero writer. I think he's more of like a sword and sandal kind of writer, more of a fantasy type of guy. And you can see he's outside of his element. And he's certainly playing way above his weight, being the headline writer for a Marvel Comics event. But they really don't have anybody else. Who else is going to do it? Kieran Gillen already dropped the ball. Are you going to have Ray MV do an event? Absolutely not. Are you going to have Donny Cates do an event? Well, absolutely. When he actually comes back to work, obviously he's a little bit MIA right now. Peter David probably could do a great event. He's obviously not available due to medical reasons. Jonathan Hickman wrote the last great X-Men event we got, and certainly he would be able to do something with this mess, I believe. But they burnt that bridge. They drove him away because of their incompetence. He couldn't just sit there spinning his wheels, not telling cool stories anymore. And obviously he's moved on to the Ultimate Universe in Gods and is going to be working on that. There's nobody left. Jerry Duggan probably is the best they can do. And that's why the X-Men line is dead. And that's why they're so desperate. That's why they have to bundle every single thing going on at Marvel Comics at the time and hope that you and I get interested in this. But I'm on to it, and you're on to it. We're not suckers anymore. You're absolutely insane if you think people are going to keep buying into this stuff. And making it bigger certainly doesn't make it better. And quite frankly, Marvel Comics needs to do a moratorium on X-Men events. This stuff is getting old real fast. 3 to 4 X-Men events a year is absolutely insane. I talked about this in depth right here. If you haven't seen this video, you need to watch it right now. There's also a link in the video description.